It's pretty clear that the off-ramp is not coming anytime soon. The president's trade representative is explaining in a lot of detail exactly how serious President Trump is about addressing every single trade deficit with every single nation from Vietnam and Malaysia to China, and it's plainly going to take a while. We had been expecting maybe some small-scale deals on smaller trading nations in the advance of tomorrow's tariffs going into effect. But those talks are going to take a while. They've already taken a while. They're stressing some things that have already happened, like India taking off its 6% digital services tax, which happened a couple weeks ago. So nothing has really precipitated since Liberation Day that should lead anybody to be optimistic that any of this is coming off anytime soon.
Is there any role here, Henrietta, for the, U.S. Congress?
No, not right now. I keep titling my reports, T minus 4 days, T minus 3 days, because I keep getting that question from investors. When are lawmakers going to step in and take back some of their constitutionally mandated authority? What about the Cantwell-Grassley bill? It's got 6 or 7 Republican Senate sponsors right now. It might eventually have a House companion bill. That is nowhere near the sustained pressure campaign that would be required for Congress to be able to get 67 votes to overcome a veto hurdle from the president, which he's already said that he would do. And, they're about to leave town on Thursday or Friday, if not before. Looks like these budget talks aren't going very well. So there's nothing that anybody should expect from Congress for the rest of this month and well into May.
Okay, so based on that, I guess I'm having a hard time understanding the off-ramps to certain countries like a Malaysia or Vietnam that don't necessarily have the money to buy the stuff from us versus, say, a Europe. Is there an understanding, as you're watching the Deputy Trade Representative speak, that there are tiers of different off-ramps or no?
I've always thought that there were tiers. We saw that through the reciprocal tariffs going on at different rates against different countries. At this point, the combined China tariffs are over 100% versus Vietnam's at a lower rate. But the question I think that you point out so well, Alex, is that the tariff we got from Vietnam is 1.5%. So what is the goal here? To get it to zero? Great. Well, what did we just achieve? Almost nothing. So the pain that we are seeing, the manufacturing pain, I think is a real story that we're going to be watching for the next couple of months, if not years, as they just get completely frozen. We talked yesterday about Audi just abandoning some of their cars at the ports and not offloading them, not knowing what the tariffs are going to be. So the manufacturing disruptions across steel, inputs, aluminum, copper, there's so much there that is really going to go up the works and create a difficult ramp for any tier to be helpful to domestic manufacturers.
Henrietta, have we seen any recent polling about how people feel about tariffs? Because it's obviously such a central part of President Trump's economic policy. Is there polling that people support this stuff?
President Trump's supporters do. President Trump's supporters view the recent stock market declines as comeuppance for, I'm sure, probably some residual hangover from the Great Recession, and the bank bailouts. There's definitely that component. There's a difference between union households and non-union households and the way they're viewing the president's actions. But most of his supporters like the tough guy attitude and are not really as concerned about individual tariff rates and what it means. And I think this is something that's missed by Trump's voters right now, is that the market is a leading indicator. The market is pricing in recession now, pricing in 1.5 points away from GDP growth versus expectations, or 0.6% at least at the low end. They're going to see that ultimately play out. And that's what strikes fear in the heart of some of these members who are trying to push back against the president, because they have to run for re-election next year. Trump doesn't, but they do. So that's, I think, the only real leash on this. You're right to point out the approval ratings. It's going to be slower to hit polling data than the market reaction. But I do think that what's been really clear for Americans for many months now is that tariffs are taxes. The president can come out and say these are tax cuts, but we know in our heart of hearts that that is not true. And the American voter and the polling data consistently shows that this is one of the least supported areas of his agenda and that they constitute taxes.